Welcome back to the homestead. So we've been pretty busy on a few of our projects, the summer kitchen and working on the apocalypse truck, but we've also been very busy in the garden too. So I'm going to take you on a little tour of what's been going on in the garden and show you some of what we've got blooming around the homestead. We'll start off in the greenhouse. Here we have our tomatoes that we planted back about mid-March from seed. So you can see these have come up really nicely. There's our blueberry, rhubarb, and back there are our thornless blackberries. These are our buttercup squash. So these have come up really well for us. These are a nice yellow meated, kind of heavy bodied squash. They're similar to an acorn squash, but I think they have a little bit more flavor. So we really enjoyed these last year and they produced super well for us. So we're growing them again this year. I've got a few more tomato starts going over here. So those are full-size tomatoes. I'd expect to see most of those come up in the next couple days. We started those about a week and a half ago. Again, more tomato plants and some basil. Down here we have more basil and pepper plants, and they're down here because the basil was having trouble with getting burnt in the greenhouse. So you can see where that has a burnt spot on the leaf. And that's because the sun can get pretty intense through the greenhouse plastic. And the basil doesn't fare well with that. Most of the other plants do all right, but the basil can have trouble. So it's down there where it'll stay very warm in the greenhouse and moist, but not get quite as much direct sun. These are yellow crooked neck squash and of course zucchini. Back here is some of our purple Genovese basil. And it seems to do okay on this side of the greenhouse. The sun side of the greenhouse, basil seems to suffer a little bit. And then over here we have the cucumbers. These are a pickling variety. One of the interesting things is we started these cucumbers at the same time as we started the rest of the squash plants. But they're a very small and slow growing squash plant compared to the others. And that's the same thing we experienced with them last year. And there's our blueberries. We'll probably go ahead and get these all planted in the ground today. We're starting to finish up some of the summer kitchen area and we're getting ready to have that area be landscaped. So hopefully we'll get some of these in the ground today. Our mint is starting to come back. Mint is a perennial and we have it in a box here because it spreads really prolifically if you don't keep it contained. And this box seems to have really slowed that down. So it goes down about 3 inches under the ground, and that's really seemed to help keep the mint contained. You can see we've got buds on our blueberry bushes from last year. It looks like all of them survived the winter. And over here we have something I'm really excited about. These are our peach trees. And this is the first year that these have had blossoms on them. So we planted these 2 summers ago. And now they're just starting to get blossoms on them this year. So hopefully we'll be able to keep a couple of those blossoms on for fruit. We don't want to let these trees have too much fruit on them because they are still young and small, but we could get a couple peaches this year and that would be really nice. Over here we're going to add another layer to each of these 4 beds, so they are not planted yet. These were our squash beds last year, but I'm not sure what we're going to use them for this year. Probably we are going to use them for maybe some peas and beets, Maybe 1 or 2 of them will be for squash as well. And in the garden, you can see that our strawberries are doing really, really well. They've come back quite nicely after the winter. And you can see we even have our first few strawberry blossoms starting to come onto the plants. So that will be really great when we start having fresh strawberries. And over here, they're still hard to see yet, but we have carrots starting to come up. We've not planted or taken care of this bed yet for the summer. Over here we have all of our garlic. You can see that that's coming up really, really well. In this bed we have spinach coming up and beets. Over here there's radishes. They're doing really well. They've sprouted very quickly. And another row of beets. This whole section is all beets. And across the back here, we've planted our peas. And you can see they're coming up really nicely. This bed has our sage in it, but other than that, it's not been planted yet. And in the last bed down here on the end, we have more peas. We love peas, fresh out of the garden, so we've planted a lot. And we found last year that it worked really well to plant them at the backs of each of the beds and then to trellis them up on this wire. So we plan to do that with almost every bed in this garden this year. And then we've got the new garden space down back here. We've finished up tilling this and we've added compost and a bunch of lime to it. So it needs the rocks picked one more time. And then after that's done, we'll go ahead and seed this in probably 2 weeks. We could still get a frost yet, and we want to make sure that we don't put anything that's not frost tolerant in the ground until the danger of frost has passed. So we're really looking forward to planting this huge new garden. This will be our corn and onions and potatoes out here for this year. I think that's about all the garden updates. So we appreciate you joining us. We hope you've liked the tour of the garden. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe.